We just wrapped up a live breakdown of a finance video, and honestly, it surprised everyone. This wasn't one of those dull number-heavy clips that make your brain shut down. It was sharp, engaging, and actually kind of addictive. The whole idea was simple. Estimate how much the Browns were really spending every month during their Vegas years, and then have McKelty look at those numbers and react honestly. What followed was way more explosive than anyone expected. Because McKelty Padron and her husband Tony didn't just react to numbers. They unintentionally blew the lid off years of financial smoke and mirrors, exposing how Kody and Robyn have been twisting the truth about money for a very long time. And when you hear McKelty openly mock her father's habit of blaming everyone but himself, while Robyn hides behind the role of the misunderstood budgeting victim, you start to understand why McKelty is the only Brown child willing to say this stuff out loud. But before we get to the moment that made Tony literally freeze in shock, when he realized Kody and Robyn sold their home without telling anyone, including their own daughter, you need to understand why McKelty's voice matters so much right now. Because this didn't come from a place of bitterness. This came from betrayal. Out of all 18 of Kody Brown's children, McKelty stands alone. She's the one who consistently calls out bad behavior without turning it into chaos. She doesn't scream, she doesn't exaggerate, and she doesn't chase drama. And that's exactly why her words hit harder. Over time, her Patreon has quietly become the most honest source of what's really happening inside the Brown family, things TLC will never show. While other siblings stay silent or post vague hints online, McKelty and Tony sit down, talk openly, react to episodes, and calmly dismantle the lies being sold to viewers. For years, McKelty walked a careful line, staying close to her mother Christine after she left Kody, while also maintaining a genuine bond with Robyn, who she once viewed as a second mom. That balance shattered in March 2024 at Garrison Brown's funeral. McKelty has never explained exactly what happened that day. She's only said it completely changed how she saw Robyn. And the fact that she refuses to say more, out of respect for her brother, makes it even more chilling. Whatever happened was serious enough to destroy a relationship that lasted over a decade. By September 2024, fans started noticing the distance. When someone asked on McKelty's Patreon why she no longer seemed close to Kody and Robyn, her response was calm, measured, and devastating. She made it clear that she doesn't lie, but she also won't violate boundaries. She admitted that things had changed, and that the funeral played a role. She didn't accuse. She didn't attack. She simply told the truth as far as she could. And that silence spoke louder than any rant ever could. That's what makes her current commentary on family finances so powerful. This isn't a stranger speculating. This is someone who lived inside that house, watched money move behind closed doors, and finally got tired of watching the same two people rewrite history while blaming everyone else. During Sister Wives Season 20, Robyn tried to sell viewers a very specific narrative. She claimed she learned how to budget after her first divorce, and that the other wives just had different priorities. It sounded polite, but the message was clear. She was responsible, and the others weren't. McKelty doesn't buy that story. Not for a second. Because the reality doesn't match the performance. Reports surfaced that Kody and Robyn purchased a $2 million home in late 2024. And for years, unconfirmed but persistent rumors have followed Robyn about tens of thousands of dollars spent on collectibles. If even part of that is true, it completely shatters the image of the frugal wife barely scraping by. Then came the moment that stunned even McKelty. In August 2024, she and Tony learned, along with the rest of the public, that Kody and Robyn had sold their Flagstaff home and bought another property. No phone call. No heads up. Nothing. Tony's reaction said everything. He couldn't believe a decision that big happened without any of the family knowing. And that was the real story. It wasn't about real estate. It was about exclusion. McKelty was no longer considered inner circle. Kody loves to talk about how hard it was to support for households, how overwhelmed he was as a patriarch. But what McKelty watched growing up told a different story. She saw money consistently flow in one direction. Robyn's comfort always came first. The Coyote Pass mess is the perfect example. Kody refused to sell land no one wanted, dragging it out for years while holding loans from Mary and Yanel over their heads as leverage. When he admitted on camera that he discussed forcing a sale without Mary's full consent, it confirmed everything McKelty already knew. Money wasn't about fairness. It was about control. And when Robyn reportedly tried to push NDAs on Mary and Yanel, it crossed another line. You don't silence people unless you're afraid of what they might say. Mary saw it instantly. She refused to be quiet again. And McKelty watched her father spin the story, blaming delays on everyone else, as usual. Then came October 2024, when Kody went on television and accused his daughter Maddie of being a gossip, claiming his kids were cutting him off for things he didn't do. That was the breaking point. McKelty couldn't stay quiet anymore. On Patreon, she calmly explained what her father refuses to understand. Accountability without excuses changes everything. But every time Kody apologizes, he adds blame. And that cancels the apology entirely. Tony summed it up perfectly. Kody's pride won't let him be vulnerable. He can't step down. He can't admit fault. And that's why his relationships with his children keep collapsing. What makes McKelty and Tony's perspective so credible is that they're not financially dependent on Kody. They've built their own life. They moved across the country to support Tony's chess career. McKelty has multiple income streams. She doesn't need approval. She doesn't need permission. And that freedom is exactly why she can finally speak honestly. The shift from defender to critic didn't come from hate. It came from clarity. McKelty once believed Robyn truly cared about the family. She remembers how supported she felt as a teenager. That gratitude kept her loyal far longer than it should have. But whatever happened at that funeral ripped away the last illusion. And once you see clearly, you can't go back. Money exposed everything. Who lived in mansions? Who lived in RVs? Who got help? Who didn't? Who struggled to pay for medical care while someone else lived surrounded by luxury? Those choices don't lie. Today, McKelty speaks not to destroy, but to stop the rewriting of history. She's lost relationships because of it. And that alone proves she's not doing this for attention. She's doing it because silence would make her complicit. And that's why Kody and Robyn are so uncomfortable right now. Because the truth isn't coming from outsiders anymore. It's coming from inside the family. And it's finally being said out loud. This whole situation began with something that was never meant to explode. Just a casual live session. A breakdown of a finance video. No drama promised. No family attacks expected. Just an honest attempt to estimate how much the Brown family was really spending back in their Vegas days. But the moment McKelty Padron started reacting, it became clear this was never going to stay just numbers. Because what those numbers revealed hit far too close to home. As McKelty and her husband Tony walked through the estimates, the mood shifted. What should have been curiosity turned into disbelief. The monthly costs weren't just high, they were shocking. And suddenly, the years of excuses, complaints, and blame coming from Kody Brown didn't add up anymore. That's when the mask began to slip. McKelty didn't react like a viewer watching a TV show. She reacted like a daughter who had lived through the chaos. Someone who had watched money dictate power, loyalty, and favoritism inside her own family. Without raising her voice, she exposed something far more uncomfortable than debt, control. And that's exactly why her reaction matters. Out of all of Kody Brown's children, McKelty is different. She has never been the loudest or the angriest. In fact, she spent years doing the opposite. She defended her father. She defended Robyn. She tried to keep peace when everything around her was falling apart. Even when Christine left, McKelty refused to take sides. She believed balance was still possible. For a long time, she believed Robyn truly cared. That belief didn't survive 2024. Something happened at Garrison Brown's funeral that permanently altered how McKelty saw Kody and Robyn. She has never shared details. She has never hinted. She has only said that her perspective changed completely. And the fact that she stays silent out of respect for her brother tells you everything you need to know about how serious it was. After that moment, the McKelty people thought they knew quietly disappeared. Fans noticed the distance almost immediately. The warmth was gone. The defense stopped. When asked why she no longer seemed close to Kody and Robyn, McKelty answered carefully, but the damage was already done. She made one thing clear. She does not lie. But she will not protect behavior she can no longer stand behind. That statement alone shook the sister wives' fandom. Because McKelty was never a rebel. She was the bridge. And when the bridge collapses, it means the foundation underneath it is rotten. This is what makes her commentary on the family's finances so dangerous for Kody and Robyn. It isn't coming from an outsider or a disgruntled ex. It's coming from someone who once stood firmly in their corner. Someone who defended them publicly. Someone who wanted them involved in her life and her children's lives. And now, she doesn't. The finance discussion cracked something open that couldn't be closed again. It forced McKelty to look at years of decisions without excuses, without emotion, without loyalty blurring the picture. And once she did, the story Kody and Robyn have been telling for years stopped making sense. This wasn't about bad budgeting. This was about power. This was about favoritism. And this was about control disguised as sacrifice. And this is only the beginning. Because in the next part, we get to the moment that stunned even Tony, when he realized Kody and Robyn sold their home without telling anyone in the family. A revelation that proved McKelty was no longer considered inner circle, and maybe never really was. The real shock didn't come from the numbers. It came from what McKelty and Tony learned afterward. During one of their Patreon discussions in August 2024, a detail slipped out that instantly changed the tone of the entire conversation. Kody and Robyn had sold their Flagstaff home. Not only that, they had already moved forward with a new property. And here's the part that made everything stop. No one in the family knew. Not even McKelty. Tony's reaction said everything. You could hear the disbelief in his voice. This wasn't gossip. This wasn't speculation. This was a massive life decision that somehow happened in total secrecy. No phone call. No warning. No explanation. And for McKelty, that realization landed hard. Because this wasn't just about a house. It was about being shut out. McKelty had spent years defending Kody and Robyn when others walked away. She stayed loyal. She showed up. She kept the relationship alive even when it was uncomfortable. And yet, when the biggest financial move of their lives happened, she found out the same way the public did. That's when it became impossible to ignore the truth. Kody loves to paint himself as the exhausted provider, the man crushed under the weight of supporting 4 households. He repeats it constantly. But what McKelty witnessed growing up told a very different story. Money wasn't shared evenly. It flowed in one direction. And that direction always led back to Robyn. The Flagstaff years made that clearer than ever. While Kody complained about costs, Robyn lived in the largest, most expensive home. Loans from Mary and Yanel helped make that possible. And instead of gratitude, Kody used those loans as leverage, bringing them up whenever it suited him, as if financial support entitled him to more power later. Nowhere was this more obvious than the Coyote Pass disaster. For years, Kody refused to sell the land even after the dream was clearly dead. No one wanted to build there anymore. Everyone was ready to move on. But Kody held on, dragging the process out while constantly reminding Mary and Yanel how much money he and Robyn had supposedly put in. Behind the scenes, it wasn't about fairness. It was about control. When Kody later admitted on camera that he discussed forcing a sale without full consent, it confirmed exactly what McKelty had suspected for years. Money wasn't a shared family resource. It was a weapon. A way to pressure, silence, and dominate. And then came the NDAs. The idea that Mary and Yanel were pushed to sign legal documents preventing them from speaking about the property sale crossed a line that couldn't be ignored. Why silence your ex-wives unless you're afraid of what they might say? Why control the narrative unless the truth is dangerous? Mary saw through it instantly. She refused to be quiet again. And watching that unfold only reinforced what McKelty already knew. The financial story Kody and Robyn tell the world is carefully constructed, not honest. So when Robyn later claimed she was simply better at budgeting, while the other wives had different priorities, it landed as an insult. Not just to the women who struggled, but to the children who watched their mothers sacrifice while one household lived comfortably. McKelty knows those sacrifices firsthand. She watched Christine struggle. She watched Yanel downsize. She watched excuses pile up while resources never seemed to run out for Robyn. And once you see that pattern clearly, you can't pretend it's coincidence. The house sale secrecy was the final proof. It showed that even loyalty has an expiration date. That the moment McKelty stopped blindly defending them, she was quietly removed from the inner circle. No confrontation. No conversation. Just silence. And silence, in this family, always speaks the loudest. Because in the next part, the conversation turns even darker, when Kody goes on national television and starts blaming his own children. A moment that pushed McKelty from disappointment into open frustration, and changed everything. If the financial secrecy cracked McKelty's trust, what came next completely shattered it. In late 2024, Kody went on national television and did something no parent should ever do. He didn't reflect. He didn't apologize. He didn't even pause. Instead, he turned the spotlight on his own children and blamed them for the collapse of their relationship with him. He called them distant. He called them disrespectful. He even suggested they were deliberately excluding him as punishment for things he claimed he never did. For McKelty, that moment was unbearable to watch. Because she knew the truth. These weren't rebellious kids looking for drama. These were adults who had spent years waiting for accountability that never came. And instead of looking inward, Kody chose to publicly throw his children under the bus. The breaking point came when he labeled his daughter Maddie a gossip, implying she was the reason the family had turned against him. McKelty couldn't stay silent anymore. Watching your father rewrite reality on television, while refusing to take responsibility, does something to you. On her Patreon, McKelty finally said what many of her siblings had been feeling but hadn't voiced. She explained that the solution was never complicated. Her father didn't need grand gestures. He didn't need speeches. He needed to do one simple thing: own his mistakes without blaming someone else in the same breath. She shared that she had gone to him directly, face to face, and laid everything out clearly. And yes, he admitted fault. But every admission came with conditions. Every apology came with an explanation that shifted blame elsewhere. And that, she said, is where everything falls apart. Because an apology that redirects blame isn't accountability. It's damage control. Tony, watching this from the outside, put words to what everyone could see but no one could fix. He explained that Kody's pride won't allow him to step down emotionally. He won't make himself vulnerable. He won't admit wrongdoing without protecting his ego. And because of that, every relationship eventually breaks. That pride doesn't just affect emotions. It affects money. It affects power. And it affects how blame is distributed. McKelty has watched her father use the same pattern again and again. When finances failed, it was the wife's fault. When relationships failed, it was the children's fault. When trust collapsed, it was gossip. Never his choices. Never his priorities. And that pattern finally became impossible to defend. What hurts most is that McKelty didn't want this outcome. She tried to keep peace long after others gave up. She wanted Kody and Robyn involved in her children's lives. She wanted normal family gatherings. She wanted honesty. But instead, she got silence, secrecy, and blame. This is why her voice carries weight now. Because she isn't speaking out of anger. She's speaking out of exhaustion. From years of explaining herself to someone who refuses to truly listen. And once McKelty stopped absorbing blame that wasn't hers, everything changed. Because in the next part,